Hello again, welcome to another Toku Ramblings. Today we are talking about our first Ultra series, since this isn't our first Ultraman content for the show, since I talked about the mid-2000s film that came out. Ultraman X, the third season and technically the second new Ultra for the new generation hero line that started with Ginga. So, this is kind of a weirder show for me to talk about because I can say that this show is really good, but I've talked about episodic series before. Double was very episodic. O's was, to an extension during the initial part drive was. Sentai's are very episodic, but X is the purest definition of episodic. There is a overarching plot, but after the first episode, it's mostly relegated to sort of the background. So I guess we'll focus primarily on the characters here. So let's start with Daichi. I really like Daichi. I feel like he perfectly sort of encapsulates what this show kind of ends up being, in that he doesn't stand out when you compare him to other things. He's not breaking the full, or doing something incredible. Well, this show is simplicity done well, which I think kind of makes sense. This was right before a big anniversary. But I really like his, one of the things that really helped me like him was it's a very early character moment he has, where when he's transforming for the first real time in the second episode, so to not just transform because X helped him. He more or less brings up I'm afraid of heights, and X is just oh, stop being a baby, your feet will still be on the ground. It's not something that's brought up again afterwards, likely because he did end up getting over it. But it's a neat little bit of characterization for him. A lot of him is standard Toku protagonist, which I've noticed, and that they're at their best when they're bouncing off of somebody else, and between his sort of big brother or younger brother interactions with X, and how he sort of helped him, and the way he just interacts with the rest of Geo. I think that's X and Z are so weird because sometimes it's read like that, I think, but yeah, I really liked him for that. I can see some people likely calling him bland because he rarely ever gets to focus. He has the baggage of his parents disappeared 15 years ago, and yet it's brought up sometimes, but it's not the big thing. See some people claiming that he is a bit bland because a lot of the focus really isn't on him, and his only real big development is in the Ginga crossover. And really, it's not a character thing; it's more his improvements as a fight. But I think he understands what exactly he wants out of life, and that more or less kind of he wants to find coexistence between humans and the kaiju that have started to pop up in his world. Then we have Asuna. I liked her. Again, she's very standard, tough girl who can fight alongside the guys for kind of this season. But we are shown that she does wish to be more of a, show more of her feminine side, which is initially shown in episode 3, which ends up causing issues. But she kind of fits that more tsundere kind of semi-loving dress for Daichi, in which he doesn't want to admit it. She also kind of has some more of a kind of heart elements for out the show. But she still does a really great job. Then we kind of have the two guys in the show, and Water and Hayato, which I did really enjoy. That whether they're bouncing off each other or when they have kind of like the specific focus, whether it's Water to having his brother helping these space gangsters a space rugby game. I probably shouldn't speak. This show has some really great, like, honestly amazing solo episodes. Like the space rugby one is hilarious. The love one, which has Hayato's also legitimately hilarious, especially regarding Noob. But like it's sort of kind of like the hard thing like about some of these characters is that they very much fit into sort of like the archetypes they had, Daichi's the very good, honest, standard hero that you see in this. Anasuna's the tomboy of a tsundere, and then Wataru and Hayato kind of play off the two guys who do really well in fighting. But I think what helps to elevate is just one. I think the cast does a really good job in bringing these characters to life, and two, their interactions are really like this feels like a group of people who have worked together for a while. The two bridge bunnies, Tucker and Shiake, I feel kind of sort of get a bit of the shaft. They don't really get focused and just kind of show up. I think the big one was like in the last episode where he became sort of a helper, and then Aki, I can't really remember. The trio of this. I'm gonna put Mamoru and Rui together because they're sort of bounce off each other, and Mamoru is there to sort of level out the more eccentricities of Rui and her obsession with monsters, very much so. So, I like for the X crossover when she sort of gets a obvious crush on Zero because monster, and he just rolls with it, which is a nice, I love a lot of the like smaller characters. I mentioned, the whole height fear thing that Daichi initially has in the first two episodes, where he is scared of standing. Asuna has her moments too, and then Water too. But I think the best overall moment goes to like the second command story. The Nexus episode is probably the highlight for me. I like the more understated color palette. Like the dilemma she goes through actually, like in the case of Daichi, it's obvious that he's going to be willing to step up, because then there really wouldn't be a show. Like her internal challenge of more or less, is she right to have these powers? Is she going to potentially abuse and misuse them for her own selfish desire? Which she quote-unquote does. Like, yeah, she goes to save the day, but, she's not the rank-and-file soldier who can likely, disappear for a little bit. That she's a leader. She is a second in command. It's kind of hard to match both the kind of I'm more or less this dual light thing. That is arguably more or less really, really great and a good use of returning cameos. I also like the captain a lot. Very stern, very dad ask, 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 and then that he understood what needed to be done when these people need to be talked to about. Like, okay, you screwed up, and now we need to fix this. When in the fourth episode, so they all kind of have to come together, and that is a really thing. It showed early on that Geo could stand on their own without the need of Daichi and X. They still need them for like some monsters, but it's not like the big thing. But it's like shows that they are still competent in their own right as a force to defend the planet. Alright, oh yeah, I almost got, what is wrong with me? I almost forgot. I also really like Gorman. Like I like the eccentricities he kind of brings. The fact that he kind of is the first to figure out that Daichi and X are sort of related. And he's just like, okay, you do your thing, and you clearly are doing something very helpful. So I'll let you do your thing, and I won't bring it up to other people. It's not like he even just says it. So he just acknowledges it, just like, yeah, you do your thing. I'm not going to bring this up. And he is kind of silly. Like, this is a very comedic focused season, but it can get surprisingly serious when it wants to be. Like Pigmon. My god, the Pigmon episode is great. It's cute, but it also more or less has like these touching moments of him being accepted and then his death, which is the best. Like, that's sort of the hard thing with one of these like episodic series where it's like I can just say, oh, it's really great, it's really funny. It's all these great things. The suit design is great. I love the kind of more cybernetic feel that X has over a lot of other Ultramans because he's initially computer data. That is really great. And the armor is like, I should really hate series where they just introduce new powers as the plot demands it, but one, this is a bigger organization, so I'm less annoyed by it. I wish they were used a bit more, especially after Exceed X, which also looks really great. I love the additional kind of rainbow aesthetic it has going for it. That's nice too. The armors feel like they are incorporating the OG monsters into that. Then that is nice, and a lot of monster designs, even some of the new ones, look really great. And I bring back some old ones too here and there, but it's a nice mix that doesn't feel like it's just wanking to the past too much. That's one of the things that really helps. And the series just looks so good. This really makes me enjoy, like if Tokus could be like half the length of what they usually are for like Toei Tokusatsu, and they look this good, just like this and Garo, I'd be so much happier. The camera work, the miniature design, it's so good, so amazing. Like, the series does have like one, and like its episodic nature is both its biggest strength and its weakness, because about the halfway point they decide that, oh yeah, we need to get towards some kind of endgame, so all of these clouds start to empower a lot of the monsters that end up fighting now, and they're more strong. And that ties in with the energy that X was fighting before he ended up on the planet Griza. This sort of, I wouldn't say like anti-Ultraman. I mean, he kind of looks like one, but he really has no kind of personality. It's just a giant mindless monster that's just there to be like a final opponent. It has, again, no personality whatsoever. It's just boring, and that, like, yes, it's the final foe who caused a lot of issues, but I wish he could have been a little more interesting, like, You know, like, Gargorgon was a very interesting villain, especially for, like, such an early arc, and it showed the kind of more serious nature this show could get to. And this season had a lot of interesting monsters. Again, Pigmon, the little moo cat that shows. The second episode, more or less, doesn't intrinsically deal with quote-unquote something they've got to kill. It's something they're trying. They very much say this is just an animal that's more or less needs to get somewhere else because where it's at is very dangerous. And that's a great. And like, I really like that. It's not just, oh, we need to kill monsters because they're bad. It's like we need to help. And like, yes, there are the bad monsters, but there is that. I went off track, but yeah. Yeah, I love the suit designs. The monsters are all great. It looks phenomenal. The camera work, the miniatures, all great. Right? Music is incredible too. Love the main theme and the end theme, all great. The cameos, I was watching this alongside Trigger as it was airing, and this is how cameo appearances are done. Like Ginga, being the only two-parter made sense because it was the most recent one, so Leslie probably should have gotten the most attention, but the other ones are just as good. Good, even though they're like singular appearances. And even then, they're not entirely just, the return of something. The next one is just Nexus shows up to help Sayuri. And when she wants to help her family who's in trouble, that's neat, instead of just giving basically each and every one of them a focus this arc when it could have been, spent developing characters who had no development whatsoever. The movie's also really good. Like, it's again very standard. The main villain of the film is not great or that interesting per se. Just a different kind of, like, it is quote unquote more intelligent, but again, it doesn't speak. If you're going to make a big villain, there's that, and it does in a way sort of feel anticlimactic because the big threat was Grieza. He had been the cause of everything. This is just some rando, big bad evil monster that was awakened by a celebrity that just so happened to have been sealed by Tiga. A different Tiga than the one that we see that was from the 90s, because this was released for the 50th anniversary of the original Ultraman and the 20th for Tiga. So they make cameo appearances, but it's built up. They're more or less treated with the reverence and respect of these are more or less the predecessors, but it never feels like it's their movie. This is still very much a sort of X epilogue movie, though. It's really, X is not featured prominently here because he sort of gets his head kicked in initially, and he doesn't show up besides just talking. And I really love the way he just interacts with the rest of the crew. Now, he had some good interactions with Daichi. Again, the big one was, the whole height thing, but kind of being sort of the semi-mentor to him. But he's able to be a lot more laid back and loose, and that's really nice. Man, it's so hard for one of these series because, there's no overarching plot, no real character development of a character is different at the end. And I don't really want to spoil much about it because I don't know if people haven't watched this before, and I want, you can easily see this right now. If you have a Crunchyroll, you can watch this. Yes, or you can just go on to Tubi. There are so many ways you can watch this series. It's not like, say, a Kamen Rider or Sentai where you are very limited in what you can do. Dude, this is available right now. So go watch it instead of listening to me ramble like an idiot. This is really good. It's some of the most fun I think Toku has ever been. And sure, it's simple, sure, it's basic, sure, it doesn't more or less change much, but it's fun. And sometimes that's the best thing a thing can be. Fun. Ugh. Anyway, next week we're talking about something that's extremely mediocre. As always, do the usual things to keep me in the YouTube algorithm. Hope you enjoyed watching, and see you around.